What's good, everybody? Welcome to the Land Grant Podcast Network I-80 Football Show. As always, I'm your host, Jordan. I'm here with my co-host, Dante.
What's up, Jordan? Sorry, I'm still typing here. Matter of fact, hold up, so I can at least see.
As you see,
Bad podcasting by me.
Is what it is. How you feeling today?
I'm chilling. How are you doing today?
I'm great. I feel like we have a lot to talk about, but besides that, I always forget about it until it happens. This is the best part of the year because even with football season is amazing, but you start to get into the fall, it starts to get cold, winter. This is one of the best parts of the year because it's still warm. You can still do things, but more specifically, we're into real football. So like training camp has started, preseason has started. You get to real football conversations and things like that. But also, and I don't know that you'll predict that I'm going to say it, but you'll remember it as soon as you hear it. The Little League World Series is on.
Yep.
Look, I got a message on my phone and it was like from ESPN, and it was like Little League World Series on today, 10 games. I was like, let's go! Like for the year, like I'd be forgetting every year. I never remember when it is. I I don't hear anything about it, and then it starts, and I watch it like the whole thing. So but even better than the Little League World Series, and I need to be better because we need to be inclusive. The Little League Baseball World Series. The Little League Softball World Series is on too, and I caught it exactly. So the Baseball World Series is still in their region. So the World Series is later. The actual World Series, softball starts today.
Okay.
And runs next week. And so
on ESPN2 or something.
I don't know. I always watch it on ESPN Plus. I don't know what it. I know the actual World Series should be on cable. So the softball World Series should be
softball.
On ESPN
I think it's on
or like ESPNU or something. One of them. One of the things in the ESPN.
I could be. I'll find it.
Yeah, I almost always just watch it on ESPN Plus because even when I have cable, it's just super easy to find. But so the Little League Softball World Series, the actual World Series starts today and runs to next week. I missed the build up to it because I always forget when it's on. So I missed the elimination games and stuff. But then the Baseball World Series elimination games are on right now as well. So for this whole week, you get the Softball World Series and the Baseball elimination games. And then next week-ish, you actually get the Baseball World Series. So on top of real deal football, you also get the literal best baseball product you can get because I don't care what anyone says, this is better than the major leagues.
It's more enjoyable to watch, yes.
Yeah. Well, yes.
But
better
has been entertaining this season.
Yeah, because
you're talking to a baseball fan. You're talking to a baseball fan.
It's been entertaining because they're throwing haymakers.
Man, that was telegraphed, man. That was a perfect punch.
Yeah, it's crazy because I'm watching the video and I'm like, he looked like he about to get his ass whooped because he's just ducking his head, and then he just mink right on the chin, slapped him, and it was hilarious because I don't know who Tim Anderson is, right in general, but it's funny because this is one of the few athletes that I feel like women and Zarya know a little bit better than me because of whatever goes on in his personal life. I just saw a whole bunch of tweets about he be cheating on his wife and he can't fight. And then I saw someone else say, delete this tweet. There's two families watching this. And I'm like, dang, honestly, if you get knocked out on national TV like that, you should be single. He might survive it because he might be able to provide. He a millionaire. He may not have regular people problems, but if you get knocked out on TV like that, your girl can't go out in public. She's like, hey, ain't you?
But it's not even just his girls.
Yeah, plural. Neither one of them can go out in public. They go out in public and people start shadow boxing. It's like, hey, this your man? It just fall.
That would be so funny.
Yeah, that's embarrassing.
No, I saw the same thing because I didn't know nothing about this dude for real. And next thing you know, I know everything about him in maybe 4 tweets.
Yeah.
4 tweets. I was like, dang. This man got a lot going on.
Yeah.
Like, the last thing you should be doing is swinging.
Yeah. And you started it like.
Yeah, that was the.
And it's crazy because like the way he squared up, I was like, oh, he know how to fight. He had you know,
nice hey, little, you know what? A lot of fighters still get knocked out.
Yeah, his feet shoulder width apart. He had his hands in the right spot. It looked like he had a nice little jab. It didn't matter. He was overconfident.
Did you see the edit of the video when they because somebody was like he got the Sonic rings knocked out of him and they edited it.
Oh my god. Every time someone says we need to delete Twitter, videos like that are like
happen.
We can't delete it. We can't delete it. Like Twitter's too precious.
It's been changed sadly, but I'm gonna still call it Twitter. I don't even care.
I'm
couldn't I saw that last night, and then this morning I saw that the Sonic Ring video, and I was like, y'all move quickly. Y'all move very quickly.
No sleep.
None.
Oh god.
App's great.
Yeah. No, so here's the thing. I like baseball. I don't like watching baseball if I'm not in person. Like, as long as, you know, money is money, so we will see. But I have tickets to a Yankees game in September. I just have to make sure I can still get up to New York. You know, like I know almost at any point relatively how the Yankees are doing and kind of who's doing good and stuff. I know Cincinnati was having a crazy run, and now Cincinnati does. Yeah. They've lost like 4 or 5 in a row or something like that. Sorry to the Cincinnati fans.
I mean,
Ellie De La Cruz, boy, that dude,
he's nice.
Yeah, that dude.
Nice.
I think we talked about it on here, but when he stole every base, yeah. See,
they can still, even though they on a little skid right now, they might still be the favorites to win the World Series.
Interesting. That would be dope. That'd be dope. I would go. I don't know. Yeah, I would go. Maybe
if I could afford
give
it,
give me some cheap tickets. I feel like even the world. I just feel like, so I'm probably wrong, right? I know it gets expensive, but a World Series in Cincinnati, I feel like you should probably still be able to. They may not be good seats, but you should probably still be able to find one.
You might be able to find some, but most of them will be expensive. Because I'll tell you right now, most of the good seats are already bought. It doesn't matter where the ballpark is because World Series tickets are different tickets in themselves.
Yeah, they just buy them.
Yeah, so you can just buy them that way, and you'll have World Series.
I just go to a playoff game. I don't need to go to the World Series. I'll just go to a playoff game.
Yeah, that'd probably be your best bet. Because I know when the Guardians were in the playoffs, what was that, 2017 when they blew that 3-1 series lead?
Yeah,
when those World Series tickets were cheap, so you might have a point there.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you know, like
I could afford them at that time if I had a job.
I feel like, you know, you might get lucky. Because it's baseball, just a different sport, right? NBA Finals, football, no chance. But like baseball, I feel like you know, they might have a little 1-2, and like the bleachers or something like that. It's not going to be a good seat, but like you'll be
no. Actually, it might be decent.
Really?
Honestly, again, when the Guardians went, I looked up tickets, and I think there was like mid-level 2 tickets, maybe $200 something, which isn't bad for real. And I've spent more and I've spent less on Guardians games, so
yeah, interesting. So yeah, that's dope. I'm not a Cincinnati fan. Clearly, I just said I was a Yankees fan, but you know, I would go. That's like a once in a lifetime experience.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, let's get into it. Let's get into the news. Down goes the Pac-12. They got knocked out like Tim Anderson did. With a nice right hook to the jaw.
Real clean one. Yeah,
and like Tim Anderson, it was their fault. They started it.
They did this.
They did it to themselves. You should have left that man alone. Oregon and Washington is going to the Big Ten. As you all hopefully know already, we're doing 2 shows a week. So we are only going to talk about the Oregon and Washington side of it right now. On our show on Friday, we'll get into the rest. And that's because you all listen to us, and you know if we add too many topics, we're going to be here for 3 hours. And this is a topic we could talk about for 2 hours alone. So we split it. You know, we thinking, right? So Oregon, Washington to the Big Ten. I'm going to break down the things that I've seen as far as why this happened. And then, we'll just get into our thoughts and different things. Actually, let's do our thoughts first, and then we'll get into why it happened. What are your thoughts? Like, how do you feel about it?
It's early. I
What do you
thought
mean?
I thought this was gonna happen maybe a year or two from now. That it would be something like they would announce, but like I didn't. So because we were talking about, I think the last episode that was
Yeah,
just aired.
because Colorado left.
Yeah, I think we were literally just talking about how they could collapse any day now, and then I think it was like maybe a few days later. Here's Oregon and Washington talking about we're going to, and I was like, how many teams are left?
4.
4, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I thought it was hilarious because we were just talking about it. We legit just talking about it, and it collapsed a few days later. So I was like, it's early and it's hilarious, but we all know I was gonna think it was funny regardless because they did it to themselves. Um, I didn't expect Oregon to come to the big. I didn't know Oregon would want to go to the Big Ten, but I'm not mad at it. They're going to be a really small team in such a big conference because most of these players are big in the Big Ten. Washington can compete for a little bit. It depends how long they keep this up, but I think Washington it will fit fine in the Big Ten. I did see your Instagram story earlier. That coach made a good point though
Yeah,
about
the Oregon State coach.
about the other sports. That's a topic for probably another episode, but that is concerning.
Yeah, for sure. And just in case you all didn't see it, Oregon State's football coach was basically like, this is fine. I have no issues with this for football. Football is going to be fine. We're
Yeah.
always fine. Like, we have the money, but they're like, these other sports don't have the money. They don't travel like we do.
Yep.
Did no one talk to the players and ask how they felt about it? There's, softball players in different sports speaking out saying, I chose the Pac-12 to stay close to home so my parents could watch me play.
Yep.
You have midweek travel and all of that kind of stuff. And he was just saying, like, did anyone think about the cost to them when, football is always going to be fine?
Yeah. And that was a good point because I with wrestling, track and field, that's gonna be terrible. Lacrosse maybe, things like that. So there's a lot of schools. Basketball even, the women's basketball team, because you know
Yeah.
how they don't get no money. So
Yeah.
that's
So
gonna be terrible.
I think that, and this is not going to happen. I think a positive could be that the travel is so much that they have to charter jets and things for these other sports, and that would be good for them. I also think
That is wishful
by
thinking.
force, I don't even know if it's wishful. I think they're going to be forced to do that. And
I hope so.
I think the other thing that's going to happen, and this is like even before this, right? Because these conferences, they're further now, but a lot of these conferences still weren't close. Even the Big Ten had a large, like, thing, and you can't lie and say it's not bigger. It's obviously bigger,
It's
especially
bigger.
from end
Yeah.
to end.
Yeah.
But the
But
thing is, um, well, I think another thing that the Big Ten has already talked about that I think is going to be good is it's going to change the scheduling where they're going to do more like pod style, more intentional. They literally said we just used to schedule, and
yeah.
so you might go to Michigan on Friday, go home, and then on Tuesday you go to Michigan State instead of playing them Friday and Saturday. And so now they're being intentional, and they're going to say you're going to go here for a weekend and you're going to play the schools in this area. And even like they're like, we may take UCLA and USC's basketball team, send
Mhm.
them to Michigan. On Friday, USC plays Michigan. And on Friday, UCLA plays Michigan State. And then on Sunday, they switch and then
Switch.
they fly back together. Regardless of how long the travel is, that's better for the sport. It makes the scheduling model better. It's better for the athletes. And that's just something they didn't think about it at all because they didn't care.
Yeah,
Like
they
literally, there was no sequencing to when and where you were traveling and things like that. And so I think that's another thing that is an unintended good consequence of
yeah.
this. Ultimately, we're going to have to find out and we're going to have to see if it's more negative than good, right? I do just think that people are kind of glossing over some of the good. And I think the reason why they added these two teams in general and is because of the scheduling.
Mhm.
Because they didn't want them 18 months ago, and I still don't think they wanted them now, which is why
I
they
don't think
will
so
get
either.
into that, which is why they're giving them so little money. But it's going to help with the scheduling. So that is definitely a major concern. I do until it's 2 or 3 years in and we get on TikTok and see all these players starting a movement because it's not working. I
Mhm.
have the tiniest belief that they're going to make it as best as possible, even though it's not, it's ultimately not going to be good for them, especially, those ones that were specifically in the Pac 12 because they wanted their kids to play. Because
Right.
ultimately, for 14 out of the 18 teams, it doesn't change that much because Ohio State's not going to go to California that much. They're not going to go to Oregon that much. So
Nope.
for them, it's the same travel. It's just those few kind of games, and so they're going to have to figure that out. And
It's
hopefully
more
they do, because if
the new teams coming in are gonna do a lot more traveling.
and that's where
Than
adding the other two teams lessens that travel
yeah.
because you can play as many games against them as possible. You can then, because there's more teams out there, you can then bring more schools out there and do round robin sort of tournament type things,
We
and make
I
it better
would
for people.
we'll probably see more teams like Maryland, Minnesota, Illinois doing a lot more traveling than we would probably say Michigan and Ohio State.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if they give Michigan and Ohio State preference in other sports, but we could see
I
that. I
would
mean,
I would
ultimately,
yeah, probably not. Maybe basketball
yeah,
because
maybe.
they have more, but in Michigan State have more predominant name in basketball in the Big Ten than the other schools. Or besides Wisconsin too.
Yeah, I mean, I
Forgot
don't.
they have a predominant name in basketball, so maybe that might be the only other sport that'll
Yeah,
be fine.
I mean,
Everybody
who
else
knows?
could be doing a bunch of traveling.
The thing is, there's a lot of schools that are close enough to each other that you could kind of make this work if you do it intentionally.
Yeah,
Michigan and Michigan State. There's two schools in Michigan. There's two schools in Indiana. There's two schools in Illinois. Right. Rutgers and Maryland aren't that far from each other. That's definitely driving distance. That helps. Penn State's god awful. No one's gonna
yeah,
have a good time going to Penn State. That's just gonna be horrible. There's not really a school close enough to Ohio State to like really warrant that. So that's kind of what that is.
yeah.
Um, Iowa, Minnesota, Nebraska, and Wisconsin. I
Those
know
are
there's some sort of pairing where those aren't too far from each other. It's not ideal, and they're gonna have to be very creative. And it is very optimistic to assume that they're going to get it right. And I am not assuming, but I am hopeful.
they. It'll take a minute.
Yeah, I
I
am,
know
and
that
they
much.
still have they've been working on it for a year, and they still have a whole nother year to do
Yeah.
it. So hopefully, but I mean, we'll find out. That's the great thing with the this player movement and things like that. We'll find out. Um, and I
So
mean, hey,
when is Oregon and Washington?
it'll be next year, same as USC and UCLA.
Holy shit. Okay, yeah,
Yeah,
that's way earlier than I expected.
yeah, yep. So, my thoughts, and then what you keep saying it's early. We'll get into that in a second. Why I think that happened. So, my thoughts on it overall. I think it's great for football. I don't have to add any
For
thoughts
football, yeah.
to anything else because we just talked about that. I think it's great for football. I think it's a good step into the fact that major college football needs to be its own entity, and then they can do conferences however they want to, and then they can keep, the Pac-12 can be the Pac-12 and all the other sports, the Big Ten can be the Big Ten and all the other sports,
Yeah.
and more that kind of regional thing for travel money and that kind of stuff. But football is a national sport, and I think it should be national, and everyone talks about this NFLization of college football. But here's the thing: the NFL is the biggest product in the world, like entity,
Yeah.
obviously not over like the Olympics and the World Cup, which happen
You're
every
right.
4 years and stuff like
Right.
that,
Right. Right. Right.
but as a single sports body, like comparing the NFL versus baseball, the Premier League, like that kind of stuff, the NFL, and maybe it's not the Premier League, I don't know, soccer is a world sport, but
Yeah.
if it's not bigger than the Premier League, it's the second biggest entity in the world, especially as far as dollars, right? So what's wrong with modeling things after the NFL? It's very successful. And people like to forget that change just happens in the NFL all the time. They literally just added two teams to the playoffs and got rid of a first round bye. And
Yep.
it went smoothly. Like I don't think, people are so resistant to change, and I don't think that change is bad. And I would, and one of the things that annoys me with all of this, right, is people keep talking about regionality and this and that, but you're not watching MAC. You're not watching the MAC. You're not watching the Sun Belt. Football, college football is still regional. You're
Yeah.
just not watching it. The biggest brands can be national. I don't want to
Yeah.
see Ohio State play Rutgers. I want to talk about it, but like Ohio State, and you talk about this literally when I told you that we were going to have to talk about the Ohio State game every week. What did you say?
I was like, ugh, because
Exactly.
I
It's
was
gonna
like,
be less ugh. It's gonna be less ugh, and that is good. Like literally,
yeah,
I'm an
because I
Ohio
thought
State
about it.
fan.
I was like, there's a lot of teams that they play that I really could care less to talk about.
Exactly. And I'm an Ohio State fan. I watch every single game. I watch the 8 o'clock game against Rutgers. But you know how much better that's going to be when you play Rutgers every 3 or 4 years instead of every year, and you get to
Yeah,
throw in Oregon, and you get to throw in Washington, and you get to throw in USC and UCLA, and you get to throw in
yeah,
Wisconsin a little
because
bit
like
more
I
because
I
there's
really
no divisions and stuff like that.
because like I don't want to talk about Youngstown State or Indiana,
You know what I'm saying? And so for
Rutgers.
the
I don't care about Purdue.
right, and everyone, and that's the thing. I think it's very disingenuous for people to say that this is ruining college football.
It's a lie.
There are 130 teams in college football. The movement of like 30 of them, 48 of them, not even half,
Yeah,
can't ruin the sport as a whole.
and
You just
let's
don't
be
care. You
yeah.
don't care about Maction. You don't care about the Sun Belt. You don't care about G5. You don't care about good football games. You're not
Some
watching
people and
the
not in
FCS
this
playoffs and all the
yeah,
other kind of
and then the
things.
thing is, there are people who don't care about the Big 12.
Right.
People don't
Like
care about the
I only
ACC.
watch SEC games.
Yeah, there's people who legit only watch Big Ten and SEC because those seem to be the more
Right.
NFL teams.
But then you're mad when they become more NFL like. And literally, this one reporter was like, loser, diehard college football fans, winner, casual fans. The thought that you have to be a casual fan to enjoy this and be happy about this is very disingenuous and it's dumb. And the fact that hardcore college football fans don't want this is also dumb. I get it. I get it's change. Change is hard, but it's
Hardcore
not
is
going
synonymous
to.
for older
Literally,
in this
that's
situation.
literally what, like, that's fine that you remember it 60 years ago, but things change and this is better. Literally 60 years ago, three teams, not even 60 years ago, like 25 years ago, 30 years ago, any team could claim a national champion because there was no way to declare a national champion. I literally saw someone tweet that Minnesota claims a national championship in a year that they had two losses when there were two other undefeated teams in the country.
Mm.
This is, you have, like, you're getting more games against good teams, you're getting the playoffs, you're getting all of these kind of things. And here's the thing, college football has always been about the top. It always has, because again, are you watching Maction? Because I am.
Right.
Like
And wait, hold on.
I'm gonna,
Again,
like, if you're only watching Ohio State games, then why are you mad about this? If
who
you're
said
only
why
gonna
are you
watch the
mad?
top, you should want the top to play each other. You can't
And that's
say
that I'm glad you said that because the crazier part is, and I think you was about to get into it, is that a lot of these teams who like a lot of these hardcore football college football fans uh have an opinion on what team could beat which team. Well, now we're getting
we're gonna
forced.
see it.
Yeah,
And I saw this one thing, and the money is bad, right? The money is
because
bad.
everybody kept saying Penn State should be in the playoffs and one of the best teams
Now
in the
we're
world,
gonna
and
see it.
they would beat a lot of teams in other conferences.
Well,
Well, okay then. Now
let's see
let's
it.
see
Now
it.
let's do it. Is Penn State really better than Oregon? We're gonna find out, right? And so, um, right. So, like, the money's bad, right? It's bad for Cal, Stanford, Washington State, and Oregon State. They spend a whole lot of money trying to catch up, and then they're not going to be able to catch up. But I also saw this other tweet that I thought was really interesting, and they're like, those four schools are going to go to the Mountain West, where they are more closely aligned from a financial standpoint.
Yep.
And if those teams win that conference, they can get a chance to go into the playoffs, where they would have never had a chance to win the Pac-12,
Yep.
and they would have never made the playoffs. So it sucks that they're losing that P5 status, but they just gave themselves a better chance of going to the playoffs, and they just gave themselves, even though they didn't want it, they just gave themselves a better chance at winning 8, 9, 10 games, and their fan base enjoying it because they're not going against Oregon. They're not going against Washington. They're not going against USC and these Heisman winners and NFL draft picks when you are not that. Because what people don't want to think, you can say it's based on regionality and things like that, but there is not a fair conference in the world. Ohio State and Michigan are leaps and bounds ahead of Northwestern, Indiana, Illinois, Rutgers,
Maryland,
Alabama,
Minnesota.
Georgia are leaps and bounds and ahead of Mizzou, South Carolina, Vanderbilt, all of these schools. USC and Washington is leaps and bounds above Stanford, Cal, Oregon State, right? And so I get that there are some negative things to this, and the negative really being the change. But if you want good football, you're going to get good football because you get the top of the top against the top of the top. And then you also get
because
more
even
teams who are relative to each other playing each other, and those games are good too. That's why I always mention Maction, because that's always a fun league. Kent State playing Akron, playing Buffalo, because those teams are similar.
Yep.
So why can't we get similar at the top? Why is the similar only at the bottom? Why are the even matchups only at the bottom? Because Oregon playing Cal is never a good game. Ohio State playing in Illinois, Indiana is hardly a good game, right?
Nope.
And so
it don't even look good on the field because they both have the same colors.
And you only get one chance, right, to watch the good game, and it's the playoffs. And then people are complaining about the playoffs. I'm not trying to undermine the change, right?
And these pure football fans don't even watch. There's a lot. Only Jaguar fans were watching Jaguar games before what's the name got there. People weren't watching the Tampa Bay Buccaneers before Tom Brady got there. There's a reason. Like these people talk about the purity and all that other stuff and like being hardcore fans, but you're not really watching these games. Like you said, ain't nobody watching them action unless you went to that school for real.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, those are the people we call sickos. Those are hardcore college fans. The ones that get up and risk their relationship because they're gonna watch football from noon to midnight. That's who
you
this
watching.
is good for.
Like, not many people are watching Hawaii on television.
It's
on
just
purpose.
And it's just, I think it's just very disingenuous. And then a whole another thing, and the coach mentioned this as well, the Washington Oregon State coach. They're like, he was like, I thought the transfer portal was dead. Oh, that's only for the players. Stop complaining about players getting money when schools are transferring conferences for money. Yep. Let everyone get money and pay the players. And I think that these things are going to force certain conflicts where things are going to happen. Because I don't believe that Congress should get into sports too much and things like that. But I bet you in 6 years or 10 years, when Ohio State and these two conferences are making $100 million a year, they're going to be like, no, you have to play these players.
Yeah.
You got to pay these players. Like, it's going to get to the point again where football governance is its own thing, because it should be, and it should. Major college football is the NFL. It just is. Ohio State is Alabama, Georgia, all these teams. They are the G League for the NFL.
Yeah,
so let them run their own
they bring
G League.
The same amount of viewership, even more, sometimes more than the NFL in that regard. So they're just as big. The NCAA is just as big as any other major sports entity.
It's bigger. There's 130. Well, the NCAA.
I'm not even just. I'm talking about just like, at least for its own sports, like college football compared to the NFL is just as big.
Yeah,
popularity wise.
The
college
NFL makes more
basketball
money and
is
things like that and
yeah,
stuff.
but
Yeah, but like
because they have a little bit more leeway into making that type of
right,
money, but
and it's
but
one group.
the
It's one group of 32
NCAA,
versus all these separate where
yeah,
you can
the
pit
NC
them against each other.
the NCAA racks in money. Like again, I if I went and looked it up, I'm sure the last playoffs racked in just as much money as, or could probably compare as what the NFL playoffs did, at least with
Could
ship and shit like that.
could you imagine if they picked the 32 best teams in college football and put them in a conference? Let's just say 40. Let's just say 40.
40,
The
40
40 best teams in college football. They put them in their own thing, their own governance, and they let everyone else handle it differently, go back to regional for the other sports and stuff like that. And that those 40 schools went to these TV providers and asked for, you have to pay us for these games and our playoff, right? Because the NFL is 32 teams and it's a 14 team playoff.
Yep.
Okay. So you have 40 teams. Let's just say it's 12 or 16, 12 or 16 team
I was
playoff.
going to say 16.
Okay. You do that. How you think they wouldn't get close to the NFL's deal?
It would be just about. It
And
would be
then,
just
and
about.
this is my dream. That's probably not going to happen till we're 50. That's going to happen, right?
Mhm.
And then you know what else is going to happen? We're going to get a second playoff for everyone else,
Yep.
like the FCS playoff. And so now Kent State actually has a chance to make the playoff because they're not going up against Ohio State. So Ohio State, Alabama, Georgia, all these teams, they have their own
And
system.
people
They have
and
their
the
own
thing,
playoff. They make
people are
all
gonna
the
be like, "Well,
money.
it's not fair. They're making more money," and it's like, "Well, they're the best
But,
team. If you want to
but,
become one of them, you got to become a better team."
but that's the thing. If are you a college football fan? If you care about the money, I don't go around like we talk about it because we podcast,
The
but I don't go
schools, I'm talking
around
about the
with my chest.
schools would say
But
that
they're not
stuff.
making that money now.
True.
The majority of them aren't,
True.
and I think
I guess they were saying like you won't get the same, you wouldn't get a big deal or be able to get some portion of money to that caliber because those schools aren't in the same conference
but
anymore.
do better. You don't need that money.
True.
And that's the thing about it, right?
Even though you would
And
still get money
and
regardless because it's
you would still
football.
get money. And if you create your own playoff, you like okay, so if Rutgers, right, doesn't make that 40, they're not
Mhm.
getting the 70 million anymore. But if they have that secondary playoff, they're getting more than the 6 million that
Mhm.
Kent State's getting from ESPN. So you still lift the tides for others. Maybe you get 20 or 30 million. And sure, that's 40 million less for Rutgers, but Rutgers not doing shit with that 70 million because it's not leading to winning.
Very true.
And as a college football fan, I don't care about the money. I don't walk around with my chest out like, oh, Ohio State's bringing in 70 million a year. I don't touch that money. I want to
True.
watch the games. Like if you're getting down by the business, why
Because
do you
then even in
care?
that case, like then yeah, because I give you that because if
I'm not a
the
fan of
money
the
doesn't even
business of
go,
college football. I
yeah,
don't see none of that money. I'm a fan of the
good
60-minute
football.
game that happens on a 52 and a half by 100-foot field. That's what I want to see. And this, in my opinion, is good for that.
Yeah, I of course I agree. I was just saying that would be like some of the things they would like the schools in themselves and like coaches and administrators would bring up. They would bring up the
But
money thing.
but here's the thing: they wouldn't agree to it. What would happen is Ohio State and Georgia. Well, and then we don't even have to say the name. The Big Ten, the top of the Big Ten, the top of the SEC, and the other random schools would get together on their own, and they
Mm-hmm.
would break away. And then the other schools would have to recover and rebound, and they would figure it out. And this is what I think that they would figure out if they're smart, if the NCAA is smart.
Yeah.
And then here's the thing: the NCAA
Well, the
doesn't run.
NCAA has never been smart, so
Yeah, the NCAA doesn't run the college football playoffs.
oh
So you know,
yeah.
so you know how this happens. The college football playoffs and those people, that 40 team league or whatever, they do their own thing, and then the NCAA creates their own playoff because the NCAA owns the playoff for every other sport, just not football. So then the NCAA creates an NCAA sponsored playoff in football, just like it's essentially what you're creating is you're creating the NIT,
Yeah.
right? Everyone knows that there's the college basketball playoff, right? March Madness, but then there's the NIT.
True.
But the NIT
Very
is
true.
still for Division I football teams. It's not basketball teams. It's not FCS.
Yeah,
It's your Kent States and your Rutgers and your Appalachian States who have a good season and don't make it into that 60 whatever team, right? That's just what you're creating. It already
that's true.
exists in college
Yeah,
football, in college, because it
yeah,
exists in college basketball.
and
You give an NCAA sponsored
I think
playoff.
it. Don't they already? I mean, yeah, technically, you already kind of have the idea with all these other type of bowl games. You could just
Yeah.
these
So
lesser bowl games. So you have the idea in
yeah.
mind. You just
And the
got to switch it up.
NCAA, and you can keep, you know what I'm saying? Like ultimately, so you have this 40 team league NFL style in their playoff.
And you can
Then you
still keep
have
your Rose Bowl and all those other type of
and the
games
yeah,
for
and
your
the
playoff. Yeah.
exactly. And the thing is, so there's like 132 teams now in FBS, right? If you take 40, it's still 90, right?
Hmm.
It's still 90 teams.
Yeah.
But those 90 teams have the best chance that they've ever had to win something.
Yeah.
And with
Very true.
90 teams in an NCAA run playoff, maybe you move it down to like 10 games instead of 12. And then you give us a 32 round playoff or something, not round, sorry, 32 team playoff or something. How many teams go into the FCS playoff? Let me see. I know it's a
Uh,
lot. I know it's a lot. Let's see.
because I
FCS
have no
playoff.
clue off the top
Um,
of the dome.
how many teams? I'm just gonna. Um, how many teams in FCS playoff? This is great podcasting as I talk to myself. 24 teams. It's 24 teams. So
And
you're telling me you couldn't give me like a 24 or a 28 team NCAA playoff for the remaining 90, which would still be a third of the sport
yeah,
when the NFL brings in over half?
and then that will also get rid of the crying and talking about uh uh athletes leaving or athletes not
Because
every
it's
school having the same chance to get the top athletes, because now it doesn't matter. The top athletes are
yeah,
going to go where they go, but you still
and
have a chance to win something because you have your own thing.
literally, and you just
Yeah.
shift everything down. You have Division One, which is the 40 team league. Then you have the Division Two, which is the current FBS, and then FCS moves to Division Three, right?
Hmm.
And nothing changes. Nothing changes. You don't give them Division Three rules. You still let FCS do their scholarships. You still let FBS do their scholarships. They literally just did this in Ohio a couple years ago because all the Catholic schools were winning all the championships. So they
Yeah,
added a division. They put the top schools there. Everyone shifted down a division, but you didn't change anything. You just changed your division name. So
yeah.
everyone shifts down a division number, but the rules of that division stay the same. And you add an extra playoff. Like, you can't tell me that wouldn't be exciting. You can't tell me that wouldn't be fun.
It would.
And it would be better. It would be
Mhm.
better for the teams. It would be better for the players. It would be better
And you're still gonna
because
watch it, and then the thing is, it's like fans are you're still gonna watch those teams because now
why
they have
wouldn't you?
something to. You're go, why wouldn't you anyway? Because it's football, but you're gonna watch them regardless because they have something that they definitely have a chance to obtain.
But the thing is, a lot of these people don't like football. They just don't, because these are the people who don't watch the FCS playoff. These are the people that don't watch the G5. These are the people who don't watch, who only watch the NFL but won't watch the USFL
Hmm.
or and that's fine, because I'm sure that there's some people listening to this who don't watch. That's fine. I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. I'm just saying you can't act like it's not 130 teams, and this is only affecting 25 of them.
Yeah.
Literally, okay. So the Pac-12 had 12 schools, so 8 schools from the Pac-12 left. Right, that's 8, and then 2 from the Big 12 is 10, and then the Big 12 added 4 more schools. That's like 14. And there was some other minor movement. So in the last like 2 or 3 years, maybe 20 teams have changed conference. Maybe
Yeah.
20 out of 130. That is insignificant. Now it's the biggest 20 names, and losing the Pac 12 as a whole conference is not insignificant, but it's their fault, which we
It's
can transition to. They
yeah.
did it to
They
themselves.
did it to themselves. They they didn't want to add, and they did. They weren't afraid to lose.
They
Like
were
they didn't.
elitist. They were
Yeah.
elitist because they wouldn't add any Big 12 schools who wanted to go to the conference because they didn't felt that they messed academically.
Mm-hmm.
They were overconfident in their ability to garner more money than the Big 12 because they thought that they were a better conference. They were
Mm-hmm.
apathetic and they were overconfident in their station in college football and the fact that they could just never change and that they were behind the times. And to make matters worse, they hired two of the worst hires ever. I
Yeah.
literally was listening to a podcast and they're like, name two hires worse. And I don't remember who they said. Someone named two people in a certain sport or whatever. And I'm not trying to get political. I'm only just saying this. The only thing that came to my mind is the back to back of Richard Nixon and Ronald Reagan because of how bad that was for like
Yeah.
black people. And
Everybody.
like
Yeah.
I study sociology and I just wrote like a 30-page paper on mass incarceration. So like that was in my head because Nixon started it, and
Yeah.
then Ronald Reagan like Nixon
In a
got on,
way,
like
perfected it.
yeah,
Yeah.
literally like Nixon loaded the bases
Yeah.
and then and Ronald
Yeah.
Reagan did a grand slam.
Yeah.
So I'm not, I'm just leaving it at that. I'm not trying to get political. It's just that I mean I was just researching that, so that's the only thing that came to mind is like the back-to-back worst hires of like and like how they ruined something because those
Yeah.
two ruined the
And I
incarceration
think and it's
system and a lot
crazy
of people's lives.
the Pac-12 underestimated um the
Everything really.
yeah, they really did. They underestimated losing their biggest names in their
Yeah,
conference.
I mean George
Or at least
Kliavkoff.
like you lost two, and then two more definitely was talking about leaving. Like we've had rumors about Oregon and Washington leaving for what 3 years now, something
Yeah,
like that.
and George Kliavkoff literally said that he had better things to worry about and he didn't think any of his teams would leave right before Colorado left. Right before Colorado left.
Yeah,
And then
and this
he
is already after you just lost two teams.
literally, and then they're just like, oh, it's Colorado, whatever. He didn't do enough, and then he didn't think anyone else was going to leave. And one of the other mistakes that he
Which
made,
doesn't make any sense because again, Oregon and Washington have had rumors about leaving the same amount of time
yeah,
USC and UCLA had
and
their
then
rumors.
and then on top of all of that, right? It's like he the only one that's done this, right? Everyone else added teams before they did their media rights. The SEC added, well, theirs was done, I think, but they added Texas and Oklahoma either
Yeah, they
right
were done
before or right
already.
after their media rights.
I think it's
Ohio, the Big
after.
12, the Big 10 added Oregon and USC and UCLA before their media rights. The
Yep.
Big 12 added Cincinnati, BYU, UCF, and Houston before their media rights deal so that they could go to this and say, this is the team that we're presenting. And then the Big 12 on top of that was like, we may add more. Let's work that into the contract, but we're
Yep.
going to give you these 12 teams first. The Pac-12 and George Kliavkoff was like, no. Let's get the deal done first and then add new teams. That's dumb.
It's
So
just
then you
dumb.
had the whole San Diego State thing. You have SMU blown in the wind. You have
Yep.
Colorado State who's been trying to get up, just sitting there. And here's the thing: if you went and added San Diego State and Colorado State, and then you lose, let's say you still lose Colorado, you're still in a strong position. Let's say you lose, you added SMU, Colorado State, like the teams that, let's say you added 3 4 teams.
Yeah.
Even if you lose these 4 teams, you're at 8 instead of 4.
Yep.
And it's still not the strongest 8, but you can survive with 8. And with 8, you can say you can put a call out and ask for 2 or 4 more teams because
Yep.
you're still the Pac-12. You
Yep.
can't do that with 4 teams. So
Nope.
you not adding teams because of your false bravado and this stupid line of thinking that you had to get the media deal done first killed the conference because you don't have no schools coming in, and
Yeah.
now it's 4,
And you're
and
just losing.
you can't go to the Mountain West and say, hey, come to the Pac-12. They're like, fuck no. You
Fuck
come
you.
to us.
Yeah.
We're the conference here. You
Yeah.
come to us.
Y'all only
And
got
why
4
would we?
schools. Y'all got
Yeah.
nothing.
Why
Like,
would we know who your we know who your commissioner is. He's booty. Why we like our
why?
commissioner?
Yeah.
Why would we go be under George Kliavkoff, who just killed the conference? No, y'all come to us.
There would literally be a downgrade for the Mountain West. That would be a downgrade.
And it's just and it's just like So yeah, it's sad if you like for the pageantry and the history of college football, but it's their fault.
It's their
They
fault.
hired Larry Scott, left him for too long,
Mm-hmm.
didn't follow anyone else. The Big Ten Network is the first network ever created, right? They put it on Fox. SEC put theirs on ESPN.
Yep.
ACC put theirs on ESPN. And the Pac-12 was like, we can do it by ourselves. Are you dumb? Like
Are
this,
you
this
dumb?
is their whole job. This is what they do. They do media. And you think you as a group of colleges can do media better than the media company, the biggest sports media company in the world?
Two of the biggest sports companies. Yeah,
Like
idiots.
it's
You're idiots.
it's so like this is
You
just a
really so
line of
and then it again that's just so hubris because you thought as a conference when it came to at least football, you thought you were better than the SEC in the Big Ten and thought you could do a production
that
better
they
than
didn't feel confident doing.
yeah, like what are we doing here?
Like, come on, bro. Like, and so it's like, sure, it's sad, but it's their fault.
It's their
It's their
fault.
fault.
You
Is it
you
is it sad
that
when your
I
friend calls out for work for a week straight and loses their
lose
job? Maybe, but that's their fault.
it's their
Like it
fault.
sucked that you can't feed your family, but your dumbass should have went to work.
Yeah, like it's sad your family can't eat, but I'm sad for them. I'm not sad for you. You did
Yeah,
this.
like why did
You
you not
did
go to
it.
work?
I'm sad for the athletes. I'm
Yeah,
not
you're
sad
an
for the
adult.
conference. Like
you're, you're the parent here.
they're the dependent here. Like you, that's like you were supposed to take care of your job. Your
And now
job is
it's
to bring in money, and you went, I got it.
yeah,
How?
and
No,
now it's like,
they
oh,
really said stay in a child's place, and just was like, oh,
yeah,
you got, and nothing happened. Like
and and now it's like, oh, and now it's like the federal government sucks. I can't make a living off of I can't make a living off of unemployment. Duh, you weren't supposed to be on unemployment. You had a job,
yeah,
like
like you
you
had
like
probable
no,
cause
the
to they
NCAA is
had
not going to
probable
save
cause to
you.
fire you. We can't
Yeah,
give you unemployment.
like it's crazy, and so
And
like
they still thinking they bigger than the problem. They're like, we got it, we're fine.
and this is how I know how dumb they are. The people who stayed are like, man, we're surprised that this happened. We thought we had a deal in place that would make everyone happy. Huh? What? Okay, so let's go through the deal. I don't know
How
if
is
you
it
saw
that
this.
me, some random dude that lives in Columbus, understood that
And
this was
you
gonna
didn't.
happen? And
I
that
literally,
you
I
did.
literally saw someone tweeting that they're like random fans on social media have a better understanding than college presidents.
It's like,
So let's go into this deal, right? This is what was reported, okay? So the deal that they after Colorado left and after these rumors came out, and so they finally had a meeting on Thursday and Friday to present the deal and hopefully sign the grant of rights. This was the deal that was signed that they wanted them to sign. It was originally 23 million per school. They
mhm,
negotiated it up to 25 million per school. And then they had bonuses for subscribers. So if they got 1.7 million subscribers, it would jump up to around 31 million, which is what the Big 12 got. But
mhm.
if they could get 5 million subscribers, they would get 50 million. So it's
Okay.
like, oh, all you have to do is get 5 million people who are already tired of paying for cable, who are already tired of paying for YouTube TV and Netflix and Hulu and Disney Plus and Apple Plus and Peacock and NBC Universal and Paramount Plus and all these other apps. All you need to do is get 5 million people to sign up
For
for
another
Pac-12 Plus, which is probably what they would have called it, Pac-12 Plus,
Pac-12
so
fool.
you could make some
Mm,
money.
mm.
Okay. So that's the deal that they thought they were going to sign. Huh? And then on top of that, there was so the on MLS Plus, whatever it's called, Apple sub licenses games to Fox and different things like that. So some of the biggest games are still on linear television. There was no plan and no guarantee that they were going to sub-license any of the games on linear cable TV.
So
So there's the potential
like
that
if they
no
kept
one could watch the game unless they had Apple TV.
so so if they were able to keep USC and UCLA when USC played Washington,
Yes.
You had to have
Yes.
Apple TV.
Yes.
It
Yes.
wouldn't be a regular
Yes.
cable TV for people
Yes.
who's not.
It wasn't
Because again, for those
guaranteed. It
hardcore
may
older
have.
fans who probably don't have all this shit.
Yes. Yep. Yep. And that's the deal that they thought was going to keep people.
Because I'll tell you right now, Stanford fans are probably older people. And now you're expecting these people to try to work Apple TV. Listen,
Okay.
viewers and Jordan.
Okay.
I have no clue how to work Apple TV.
And then it's like, and then it's weird because it's Apple TV Plus, but the MLS side of it is separate, which means the Pac-12 side would have been separate, and you only get a discount. Honestly, I'm having problems trying to figure out the YouTube TV Sunday ticket thing because every time I go to like buy it takes me to my YouTube, and I'm like, this isn't Sunday ticket. Like it takes me to my YouTube, and I'm like, where the hell do I buy Sunday ticket?
We've been trying to figure out why you can't use YouTube TV for about a year now.
Yeah, literally. Like I'm gonna instead of like one person having it and us going half and doing this family plan like they have or whatever, I'm gonna have to pay for my own YouTube TV because we can't fix it.
Because it won't let me change where I live.
Because you had the audacity to move back home and then move again, and that just broke.
It was like, no, you get one of those.
So
you thought people only moved one time in their lives?
There are literally people refusing to pay, and I'm not saying this is wrong again. There are literally people refusing to pay an extra $5 for Netflix so that they could continue to share it amongst different households. You think they're gonna pay $10 a month for Pac-12 when they're just like, I don't need Netflix no more?
Again, especially when most football fans, especially most college football fans, are only going to watch the bigger schools. If you
and you telling me I'm paying $10 a month to watch Cal Oregon State, like how many good games are you?
And then imagine a Oregon State student, poor as hell, can't watch the game, but is a football fan and loves this Oregon State Bears or whatever they are.
I'm paying college tuition and I got to pay to watch my team on an away game. It's not on TV. Okay.
Furious. unless those schools come with free Apple TV as long as I'm there.
But then if it comes with free Apple TV,
you can't get the subscribers.
Yeah, so you're not making no money. There's no way to win, bro. There was no way to win. And they're like, oh, we're so surprised that they left. Are you?
No, man. It only took us 7 minutes of thinking about how stupid that was to come up with several reasons why nothing would work. We don't make millions.
Nah.
But we understand how stupid things are.
Oh, it's so crazy. So Pac-12 is dead, and it's their fault. And you could feel bad for the players, you could feel bad, and that's the thing. Is I also think it's disingenuous for everyone to act like they're doing it for money. Because here's the thing: USC, UCLA left for money. Texas, Oklahoma left for money. Washington, Oregon, Utah, all those schools, they did everything they could not to leave. To the last minute. They did everything they could, and then to make it worse,
for the Pac-12 to fix their problems,
and then to make it like Oregon State's president literally basically came out and said, "I didn't want to leave. I just had to. The deal wasn't what we talked about. I wanted to do it. It just wasn't feasible." The Washington. One of the presidents literally said that it wasn't the deal that they were expecting, because basically this Apple TV deal, supposedly they got around like February or March, but they wanted a linear option. So there was a linear option somewhere on the table. Somehow George Kliavkoff messed it up, lost the offer. So when he went to the meeting, he only had the one offer. Whatever linear option with two other networks that they potentially had and were working through, he lost it somehow, so he could only present the Apple TV offer. And he went into that meeting like,
why
they're
going to digital backups? Why are these $1 million? Because again, schools are companies. Why
They
are
are.
these $1 million companies having several different backups for things? Like, how did one person have one file of this one thing?
Bro, and it gets crazy, bro. Like we can move on because we can, like I said, we can talk
Yeah,
about this forever. This is why we're not talking about the other schools because we're already almost an hour into this. The last thing I have to say about this before we just kind of like talk about some implications for the Big Ten itself.
yeah.
So I read somewhere that the Big 12 hired, I don't remember the name of them, but they hired like two media conglomerates to
Mm-hmm.
help them negotiate the deal. Because even having previously worked in TV and things like that, you need help negotiating a deal like this.
Right.
Brett, George Kleofkoff hired his college buddy that he went to law school with.
Law school, cool.
I'm so dead ass. While all these other conferences are bringing in these major media lawyer companies who all
If
they
I would have
do is
known,
negotiate deals, and George Kleofkoff hired his buddy from college.
honestly, and I'm gonna have to do more my due diligence on doing the research. If I would have known how dumb the Pac-12 really was about this, I would have made a drink to talk about this because like it's just you put what 4 bullet points and I read this and went
That's awful.
how I
That's
was
awful.
like because I kept thinking about it. I was like I love football. I even watch Pac-12 football. Ain't
Yeah.
no fucking way I'm subscribing to
Yeah,
anything to watch
and
them.
I'm literally seeing all these Pac-12 fans because I started following some, just like jumping for joy that their team that they're literally, someone said in a matter of like 6 hours, the Big 12 network did a better job of promoting Oregon and Washington than the Pac-12 network ever did, because the Big 10 network was doing like a rolling special, and even at the bottom of the ticker, they were like notable players from these schools. They were doing all this stuff, all the Twitters and all this different stuff on social media. And they're like, we've never had this with the Pac 12 network. They were like jumping for joy that they're going to be able to watch their games on Fox and NBC and all these other kind of stuff. Like, cord cutting is not good. We've
Mm-hmm.
cut the cord to the extent that we like our TV in an app, but people still want TV. We cut it where we don't necessarily need
People,
spectrum,
you
but
want
they're
to know
not
what
cutting cords where no one's watching TV.
you want to know because we cut the cord so much that we kind of just revert it because YouTube TV is a
It's
thing.
cyclical. It's
Like
gonna go back.
Hulu has live sports, Hulu has live television, so we
The
still
only
it still got TV. Like
Yeah, the
people
only
still can
difference
watch
is
TV.
I can watch TV on my phone now. I don't need
Hmm.
a cable box. That's the cord cutting we did. We
Yeah,
didn't cut the cord where people want 20 freaking different apps to do stuff.
nope, not at all. And I don't understand. And like out of all the things, Apple TV, I they Apple TV is known for the shows they create.
They
That's
couldn't even
it,
get Amazon, bro.
which is
Couldn't even get
crazy.
Amazon.
Which is crazy because then at least with Amazon, there's not a new app I gotta download. Most people you already have
Yeah.
Amazon or at least have Twitch because Amazon owns Twitch.
Yeah. You know, yeah.
So you could have just did it that way. They're already doing it with the
And
NFL.
And this is how bad it is, bro. And we defended and then talked shit and then defended and then talked shit and then defended and talked shit about Kevin Warren, because like every other week he was doing something smart, then he was doing something dumb.
Stupid.
He looks like a genius for not adding Oregon and Washington, because we kept saying they didn't want them. If they did, they would have brought them in the beginning. He looks like a genius for not adding them immediately,
Yeah.
because they added USC and UCLA, and USC and UCLA have to get a full payout of 70 mil. You wait a year, you let the Pac-12 explode, whether it was going to be this year or in 5 years, because it was going to happen
It was gonna
regardless.
happen
We were just
regardless.
betting on 5 years. You now get them for 30 mil a year with a $1 million raise for 6 years until the new media contract.
Yeah.
That's a steal. That is
especially,
a
especially for
steal.
Washington, a team that just beat your best team
That is a
in the
steal.
playoffs.
That is a steal, bro. Like, that is a steal.
Mm-hmm.
You get two teams who have been in the playoffs before,
Yeah.
who have won conferences, who are on the rise in
Yep.
your conference for less than half of what you're paying everyone else for 6 years. And then after 6 years, you get to negotiate with those teams. Steal.
Yeah, straight up. Pac-12 pretty much just handed people away.
Literally, they just like, here you go,
There you go.
please, please, like.
We obviously don't want them.
Mm-mm. Okay, so let's just get into some. This is just very quick because we won't have the answer. I was doing the math, and basically, as far as scheduling, because 16 is much better than 18, there's two things that they could do. They either keep 9 conference games, and they would play every team 3 times in 7 years, which is not awful. It's much better than what it was under the divisional format, but it's not as good as 2 times in every 4.
Yeah.
Or, and I don't think this happens now, but I think it might happen in 6 years with the new media deal. You go to 10 conference games and you do a 3-7-7 and you play every team twice in 2 years. And people would say, why go to 10? Well, let me tell you. Who did Ohio State play in out of conference games 2 years ago? Oregon. Who is Michigan State playing right now in out of conference games? Wisconsin. I'm sorry, Washington. Who do other, like, you play USC and UCLA, you play these teams, right? They're now in conference games. You're not going to play the SEC, right? The SEC and Big Ten are not going to play each other in out of conference games, no matter how much we want them to. You might get it occasionally. We got Penn State and Auburn, but you get it occasionally, but you don't really get it. So if you have,
it's probably really not going to happen.
Yeah. So if you have the 4 best teams that you would have wanted non-conference games, you're not going to play non-conference games against the SEC. And it's like, sure, you could play games occasionally against the ACC, but you don't really need to. Why? Like, your conference games are better than your out-of-conference games. You have the inventory. You have the teams to do it now. Your Ohio State, Washington, Big Ten game is going to be better than your Ohio State, NC State game. Yeah. So you go to 10, and then you still get to play your Akron's, Kent State's, Max, FCS. So you can do, 2 MAC games. You can do 1 MAC and an FCS game. And every year, if you want to get fancy, maybe you add, a Clemson or something. You do 11 games because you could risk to lose a game or 2 because of the playoffs. It's just, you just don't need the out of conference game. I mentioned this on Twitter, and someone's like, but you lose good non-conference games. There's not going to be good non-conference games because they're going to be conference games.
Yeah,
because we're not going to get the Ohio State Alabama crossover as often.
That's not going to happen unless
that's
it's the
scheduled for like 8 years from now. But I bet you it gets canceled, right? So you have the good teams in your conference, the ones that you're more likely to schedule. You don't need it. Just do the 10, play the whatever, play the 1 against Akron and Kent State and the MAC, right? And then
somebody every once in a while play Notre Dame,
Yeah, every once in a while you play Notre Dame, and that's a tough schedule. But like, you can nudge the Big Ten along and be like, hey, in 3 years we're gonna play Notre Dame. Give us Rutgers and Maryland and Northwestern. Like, throw them. Like, don't give us Oregon. Don't give us Oregon in 3 years. Nudge. Like, you can work that out where your schedule still works out.
Even then, somebody might look at that and go, we can't do both of these.
Yeah,
somebody will look like they're gonna play Notre Dame. We might as well take Oregon out of here.
Yeah, because that's the thing. They're gonna do the schedule every 2 years. They're gonna have to. They're gonna have to do it every 2 or 3 years. It's not gonna be done 10 years out anymore. So you can be like, no, we just won't play them this year. Like, you can do that. And the only team that this hurts is Iowa, because Iowa's always gonna play Iowa State. But like, are you making decisions for Iowa? No. So it's like, okay, it's like, you're not making decisions for Iowa. They'll get over it.
They'll be okay.
Yeah, you'll be fine. So I don't know which one's going to happen. For now, at least until the new media deal, it's probably going to be the 3-6-6 played 3 times in 7 years, because the contract is 6 years. It's not 7, it's 6. So you're going to get to play most of them 2 or 3 times, depending on how it shakes out. And then I think the new media contract, I wouldn't be surprised if they consider 10.
I'm not mad at the 10.
And so my last question, do you think this increases the Big Ten's national championship chances?
Next year?
Just in general.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
So I agree. I think next year, this year, maybe the next 3-4 years, maybe not, because you still have Georgia on a crazy run. You have Alabama and stuff like that. But I think in 7 years, in 8 years, 10 years, right? I think it could switch where you see the Big Ten won 3 of the last 5, stuff like that. Because as much as we talk about SEC dominance, it's really been Nick Saban dominance, right? If the SEC's won 8 championships, Nick Saban has 4 or 5 of them. So when he leaves,
I would say 5. I think he has 5. 2 is Georgia, 1 is LSU.
Yeah, it's not SEC dominance, it's these tools dominance, whatever it is, right? So, and I'm not taking this away from them. What I'm saying is, when Nick Saban's not winning 5 out of 8, you telling me Ohio State, Michigan, Oregon, Washington not gonna get one? Penn State not gonna get one?
Yeah,
that's all I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I don't think it matters tomorrow. I don't think it changes it in 2024, but in 2028, I think it looks different.
Yeah, I think it does. Depending on what the SEC does with adding in schools and stuff like that. But yeah, because again, Clemson got one of them out of there.
Yeah,
and they might take them one of these days.
Yeah, so we'll see. But
that's Clemson ain't puss. No.
All right, so that's Oregon and Washington, the Big Ten. Man, every once in a while, I'd be like, damn, Dante, we smart. Because I knew better than to try to talk about all these teams. We still spent the hour on this, bro.
Yeah, man. No, man. Because my brain just kept going, how dumb is this? It's like that. I know this is going to be random, but like I saw a video real quick on Twitter where they asked this girl how much engagement ring she cost, and she was like 10 times the guy's salary. And my brain instantly just started thinking about the math of it all, and I was like, it just physically can't happen. I was like, bro, I didn't even think about because I was like, it's obviously a stupid thing. Like, this got to be a joke. It's so stupid. But then my brain was like, well, think about how mathematically impossible that is, my guy. And I just couldn't help but do that. Yeah, the same thing here. I read that and was like, who's going to download Apple TV for the Pac-12?
yeah, bro. Jesus. So that I didn't even comment on that 10 times his salary thing. That was
I just read that. I was like, the math can't work. The math literally, it just can't.
Because here, the funny thing is, there used to be a standard for how much it should cost in like the 30s, 40s, 50s. And it was 3 months' salary. But the reason it was 3 months' salary is because if you got divorced, she could sell it and live off of it for a little.
Right. Yeah.
Which was a lie because the ring would have depreciated in value. Yep. So, it was a lie in general. But
we all getting robbed.
It was 3 months' salary, not 10 times.
Because I just started thinking about. I just thought about it. I was like, think about a dude making 20, maybe like 25K.
He's supposed to, you know what 25K times 10 is, bro.
I was like, where's the money coming from?
Yeah, I'm wondering. I'm just gonna pretend and hope that they meant 10% of the salary, which is still too much. It's still too much. But like, I'm gonna hope that's what they meant.
I said it this. I was like, before they started recording, she went, "Hey, I'm about to ask you this question, and I want you to say the most ridiculous thing you can think of." And then she went, "How much should an engagement ring cost?" And she was like, "Oh, I can think of something stupid. 10 times the salary." That'll get the clicks because it definitely got my dumb ass going, what?
All right, we're gonna take a quick break and then we'll get into our conference preview because that's actually what this episode's about. That's actually what we're here for is conference previews. All right, we'll be right back. All right, everyone, welcome back to the I-80 football show, where we are actually going to talk about the Big Ten now. I mean, we talk about the Big Ten all the time. We're actually going to talk about the 2023 season. I did not mention this earlier because, you know, we were going through our stuff. We had a lot to talk about. But this is the middling tier It's exactly as it says. It's the middle tier, middling. It's okay. Maybe they get to a bowl game, maybe they don't. Maybe some people are happy. Some schools it's going to be progress because they have a new coach. Other teams it's not going to be progress, and coach may not exactly be on the hot seat, but they may get to the hot seat next year. It's just like this is the tier, right? It's like the okay. Yeah, it's not fully the sickos tier, right? There's gonna be some like
Some of these teams coaches can't be on the hot seat because they make
yeah.
too much money, but they probably should be,
Yeah, so this tier for us is Minnesota, Michigan State, Maryland, and Purdue.
Mhm.
Maryland is in this tier for me, but like if they do what I want them to do, I think they're gonna do. That's a good season for them.
Yeah.
It's just middling compared to what Ohio State's gonna do, right? Right. But then, like, if Michigan State does what I think they're gonna do, they're gonna want to fire their coach. But as you were alluding to, they can't. So,
Yeah, they can.
that's that tier. We're talking about Minnesota and Michigan State today. We'll do Maryland, Purdue Friday. So make sure you check out Friday's show. Um, let's start with Michigan State because that is where we have the biggest difference. That is where literally in the middle of last show we decided not to talk about them like live and people could hear that conversation because we're good at this. We're not great. We open up the curtain a little too much, right? This
Yeah,
this
yeah,
is
yeah.
the Deadpool of podcasts. We be looking directly in the camera and saying stupid stuff. So Michigan State. Um,
Let me look at their schedule just to make sure.
yeah. So hold on. Last year they went 5-7. So last year they went 5-7.
Mhm.
It was not a good year.
No.
Just straight up, not a good year. Um, their secondary was mildly better than the year before, but they had absolutely no running game with Kenneth Walker. We talked about this because we watch football.
Right.
We talked about how bad their offensive line with Kenneth Walker was, and how he was saving them a lot. Without him there to save them, it showed how bad the offensive line was.
Yep.
Peyton Thorne, by having a bad offensive line and not having a good running back, regressed. Um, Keon Coleman was still cool, but for most of their wide receivers, it was really nothing to speak about. The only good thing about this team is, if I remember correctly, and I hope I don't have this wrong, I think they led the Big Ten in sacks.
I think you are correct about that because I remember one of us. I think that was talked about to end the season.
Yeah. Let me see. I don't know. Maybe that was the year before. Either way, they were really good. They were really good at like getting pressure and getting sacks, and it's the only thing that they were good at. Um, Significantly, the only thing that they were good at. Let's see. So they go into this year, um, right? They go into this year, and what do they have to do? They have to fix everything. They
A
have to
lot
fix
of it, yeah, I would
everything.
say a lot of it's the offense that needs to be fixed, which is the big, probably way too big of a problem. They have to find
Yeah.
something there, and I even think, even though I know we have a big difference.
Okay, so I did find it. I was wrong. It was. Hold on. Oh, what is going on? Why is this doing this to me? Why is this doing this to me? There we go. It was 2021 that they led in sacks.
Oh, okay. I was
So
like, does that sound familiar? And that's
I
why.
know they did it, but yeah, it was 2021 that they led in sacks. So they weren't good at getting sacks either. They were sixth in the country. Sorry, in the Big Ten for getting sacks. Middling. I mean, there's 14 teams. They're in the middle.
Yeah,
They
that's
had they had 29 sacks. Penn State had the most sacks with 43. That makes sense.
that. Okay.
That sounds right.
Yep.
That sounds right. It was the year
It
before.
does. Yeah.
So their defense as a whole wasn't good. Their secondary was slightly better, but like it could only get better, right? They
Yeah.
literally had the worst secondary in the country the year before.
Hmm.
Um, and so they were passing defense, they were 87th. So they jumped up like, 60 spots.
That's
But they
good.
were they were 112th in yards per attempt, 125th in quarterback rating because you could still get
You could
everything
throw.
going.
Yeah, you could do pretty good. Yeah.
They were 123. They were 123 in completion percentage, right? They just weren't allowing they just weren't allowing the deep plays. They were allowing everything else, and they only had 2 interceptions all year
Ooh, that's not good.
as a team.
Making in my face.
They only had 2 interceptions
That's not good.
all
Sometimes
year.
people accidentally get interceptions, so
You know what I'm
that's
saying? Like,
like that's
I
not good
think
at
Cooper
all.
DeJean had 2 pick sixes himself.
Yeah, yeah, I
Like,
think so.
you know,
That's
um,
mm,
JJ McCarthy threw 2 pick sixes against TCU in one game.
yeah.
Like 2 interceptions in 13 games, 12 games, 12. I don't think they win a bowl game. 12 games. That's rough.
That's not
um,
good.
and so there's really not a lot of momentum going into this year because you had all the negative things, right? And then you lose Peyton Thorne,
Hmm.
and then you lose Keon Coleman. So I'm not saying they're going to be bad, but I'm saying they're going to be bad. Like you have to have a lot of faith in kind of what we talked about last week, where it's like, what does the production mean? Does the returning production mean they're going to learn and they're going to get better? Or does the returning production mean they're going to be awful because they were bad last year?
I
And
would
that's the thing that
say,
you don't know. They
yeah,
return 80% of their offense. It ranks 12th in the country. Does that mean the offense is going to get better? Does that mean the offense is going to get worse? I don't know. You return 80%, but you lost your best player in Keon Coleman, like,
mm,
and your quarterback. And maybe your new quarterback, who's either going to be Noah Kim or Caton Hauser, maybe he's better than Peyton Thorne. Peyton Thorne wasn't amazing, but you don't know if he's better.
yeah, we don't know that yet.
And you know your wide receivers aren't better than Keon Coleman. So
Yeah. I I would say at least defensive wise, since we already saw that they made improvements defensively, that they can that there's at least promise there that can improve for next season because you're bringing back some production from the defense. Offensive side, you you really have no other chance but to improve because you really wasn't good at all the year before with talent. I get you can become worse, but I don't think you could be worse than Iowa when it comes to offensive wise.
I would hope not.
Yeah, I mean,
So let's see. So
but I look at their schedule and I see a lot of flip it games. I understand why you have what you have. Don't get me wrong. I totally agree with it. But then there's some games in there where I could see them pulling the victory out just because a lot of those other teams have questions that of their own.
and
At least here, Michigan State, whether you think he's a good coach or not, it's the coach that's been there for a few years.
yeah, and that's the thing. That's why this is hard. You never know what's going to happen in those type of
Hmm.
games, right? They beat Illinois and then lost to Indiana, so it's like
They beat what did they beat Michigan and then lost to Purdue 2 years ago,
something like that.
something
Yeah.
like that. So
Um. So their offense got worse. They fell in all 14 categories in offense last year,
ah,
but to this, like, does the returning production mean a good thing? They're bringing back 3 full-time starters on the
okay,
offensive line. Their left guard, center, and right tackle. Um,
continuity. That's
they
nice.
have some other ones who have some starting experience, and they landed the number one JUCO interior lineman, Keyshawn Blackstock, and a pair of top 500 freshmen. Freshmen aren't going to play. Um, so it's like maybe the offensive line gets better with the experience, but again, you just don't know. Does the
Yeah,
experience mean they get better, or does the experience mean they're just going to be bad and seniors? Right? Like sometimes they're just seniors but bad. They don't get any better.
yeah, very
Um,
true.
I don't know. They have their starting running back Jalen Berger, who is but they lost their other two backs because one transferred, one went to the NFL. Um, they I don't know. Like they lose Jaden Reed, who's in the NFL, and Keon Coleman, as we already mentioned, who transferred.
Right.
Um, it's hard to see the positive in it, right? And the thing is, they can try to build by the transfer portal, but you live and die by the transfer portal. It's not successful for most people. Like you had Kenneth, and the thing is, hold on, I need to pull this up for a second. The thing is,
You
it's
can't
like
keep doing that.
right, and
You got to
that's
keep these players here and then build something, or at least you could the you're supposed to be building through scouting, not scouting, but yeah, scouting and bringing in young
and
talent,
player development.
yeah, and player development, and then you could bring in people, but at least bring those people in that it could be like a one weapon, not your entire core or
Right.
like your entire weapon repertoire. Like all your receivers shouldn't be transfers that could go to the league or be done after after the season being there. Like there's
Yeah.
got to be somebody that stays. There's got to be some type of culture. If your culture is just ever changing, there what do we bring you here for?
Right. And the thing that makes it hard to believe in them this year is they beat Illinois, which shouldn't have happened, and they beat
Yeah.
Wisconsin, and Wisconsin was bad. I think Illinois and Wisconsin are both better this year if they play them again. They also have Washington on the schedule. So I just wanted to go through something really quickly. I think 2020 was Mel Tucker's first year, right? Right.
I think so.
Okay. So let's just go from 2020. I don't think he was there in 2019. I'm pretty sure he started. Yeah, 2020 was his first year. Okay,
Okay.
so this is him. This is them so far. So 2020 they went 2-5.
Mm.
2021 they go 11-2. 2022 they go 5-7. So without hitting on Kenneth Walker, what do you think that is? They're probably 6-6, maybe. Like I think it's fair to say Kenneth Walker added 5 games, 5 wins to their schedule.
Mm-hmm.
So if they go 5 or 6, even if it's 6, but they go 5 or 6 wins this year, except for the one year when you hit the best running back in the portal, that just doesn't happen. It's been losing season after losing season after losing season. They can't fire him, but I just don't see any I don't see any positives, right? We talked about Rutgers, and it's like Rutgers may not be good, but there were positive steps.
Mm-hmm.
Aside from their linebackers, Cal Halliday and what is that? What is that dude's name? I really like him. Jacoby
Uh,
Windman, Cal
yeah.
Halliday, and Jacoby Windman. I can't speak of anything that I really like on this team.
I can, and I'm not mad at that. I just looking at the schedule, like I said before, the reason why I have them having a winning season. It's just because there's gimme games for both of those teams. Because like again, there's wins here I give them where I'm like, yeah, they probably could lose, but I'm just giving the edge to I, the team that probably has more talent because it's a bigger name school. That would be the reason why I gave the win. But I get what you mean, and I think realistically, truly realistically, if I was to redo this, I would just have them going having the same record they just had, 5-7.
All right.
Like I think they would just repeat themselves. Really,
Which is, I mean, not good.
yeah,
And the other thing working against their favor, this is, I still disagree with it, but to a lot of people, this is the best team Michigan's had. Ohio State, this is Ohio State's only question is at quarterback, and that's a big question, of
yes,
course. But this is the deepest Ohio State's team has been since like 2019.
mm,
Like they've fixed a lot of their recruiting mistakes.
yeah,
There's a question at offensive line as well, but there's still some really good pieces there. So we'll see how that shakes out. But this is the point that I'm making. This is potentially the best team that Michigan has had.
hmm,
This is the deepest team. There are questions, but this is the deepest team that Ohio State has had, which is not good for people to have a deep Ohio State team. This
yeah,
is the best team that Penn State's had. They have Washington on the schedule, and Washington is a playoff contender. That's like 4 guaranteed losses. And Michigan State used to be at a point where you could expect them to beat one of Michigan or Penn State. You
Yeah,
can't expect that now.
yeah.
That's not a good place to be for their program. Um, and it's just
And
like,
you could even expect them to beat Iowa.
right, I'm not sure if you can expect that now, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
just like, so, last year, I'm going to read these off because I kind of expect it to be worse, their offense to be worse, unless their quarterback is just spectacular. Last year, they were 92nd in scoring offense. They were 97th in total offense. They were 111 in rushing offense. That's not going to get better. They were 94 in O-line push because their O-line sucked. They were okay in passing. They were 58. They averaged 240 passing yards a game. But 80th in yards per attempt. So they were throwing, but they were throwing short.
Yeah.
Um, just not good. It's just 79th in explosive pass. They aren't getting any explosive passes, and you lost your two best wide receivers. So if you couldn't get explosive passes with your two best wide receiver, who are both legitimate NFL players, by the way, Keon
Yeah.
Coleman's going to the NFL. And why did I just lose his name? Why did I just lose his name? Jaden Reed is in the NFL.
Oh yeah.
Unless their defense makes some major jumps, it's just going to be tough. And the thing that's so frustrating about their defense that I've had problems with forever, their secondary is the worst part of their defense, and Mel Tucker's a secondary coach.
Yeah.
Explain that to me.
Something's wrong there. This is a prove it year. This is sad. This weirdly is a prove it year for Mel Tucker, even though he can't be fired for another like 3. Something like that. But like this is true.
Once they
In
get
my
them
eyes.
$70 million checks, bro, you never know what's gonna happen.
Okay. I just know at least in this should be like a prove it season. At least prove that he deserved that contract. You should make it to a bowl game, and you gotta win the bowl game.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go down the schedule. All right, so Central Michigan win 1-0.
Yeah.
Richmond win 2-0.
Yeah.
Washington loss. Do you have that as a loss too?
So we're on Michigan State because you have East Michigan, East Washington here. That's why, and we both have a W.
What are you talking about?
On the Excel spreadsheet.
How did I mess that up?
Because if I knew that was Washington, we both have the wrong thing here.
I said,
yeah, I'm changing this then.
It's funny though. My schedule, my number is still right. It doesn't change my number. Because I had originally done my math wrong.
I didn't know they were playing Washington. That's why I was lost when you kept
saying it was a home and home. They played them last year.
Oh, okay, then yeah.
Okay. So, Central Michigan win, Richmond win, Washington loss. So 2-1. Maryland.
I have them winning it.
I need you to explain that one.
Michigan State has this ability to win a game they definitely shouldn't win, and then go on to lose a game where they shouldn't lose. So like I think like so I think Maryland and the Nebraska, but we'll get there. But Maryland's one of those teams where they'll sneak a win out that they definitely shouldn't get. Like Maryland will lose the game more than Michigan State won the game. Is really how I'm looking at this one.
That's fair. I mean, they beat Illinois last year, so that's fair.
Yeah.
Okay. So I have 2-2. You have 3-1 so far. Iowa, we both have as a loss.
And honestly, Michigan State kind of starts out pretty hot. The first 3 or 4 games, they start off pretty decent, and then it just kind of nosedives after that. So that's how that also plays into the fact of me giving them the win over Maryland too.
That's fair. Okay, so at bye, I have them at 2-3. You have them at 3-2. They come off Rutgers. We both have a win.
Yep.
Then they have Michigan loss. Minnesota, we both I as a loss.
As a loss. Yeah.
That's going to be a really interesting game because we're talking about Minnesota next. I think both
Yeah.
of these teams are in the same area, and so it's going to be interesting to see who wins that one.
But it's different. They're in the same area for different reasons.
Yeah,
Much
yep.
different reasons. Yeah.
Okay, so Minnesota, we both
I
have
think
a
Minnesota
loss.
is a better coach team, and that's why
Absolutely.
Michigan State loses that game.
I agree. Absolutely. Okay, so then you have Nebraska as a win. I have Nebraska as a loss. I don't think you really need to explain that one.
Yeah.
They're, new coach, no one knows. So that's fair. I'm just super low on Michigan State.
Which
Despite
is fair.
not knowing what Nebraska is, I was low on Nebraska. They were in my last tier, but I still have them winning that game. Ohio State lost. Indiana a win, although they lost that game last year.
Right, so you never know.
And then
you never know.
Literally, and then Penn State is a loss.
And
I keep forgetting to like
scroll as you're doing it.
Yeah, because I need to remember what I picked. So
Yeah.
I'm looking at my screen and I'm forgetting that I'm sharing the screen. This is just bad podcasting, we're trying to be better. So this is their full schedule, so you all can see it that are watching this on YouTube. So here's the schedule.
And that's what will have them going. That's why I was like, they could repeat again and go 5-7 because they would beat Maryland because Maryland lost the game, and then they'll lose to Indiana because they're Michigan State.
Yeah, I have it at 4-8. It could very easily be 5-7 because again,
and I have them at 6-6, and it could be 5-7.
5-7. It's more likely to be 5-7 than 7-5.
Oh yes. Now that you told me that was Washington, I'm like, oh okay. That my record for them looks better. It makes a lot more sense.
That makes sense. I didn't realize that I had the East in Washington. I don't know. That was just a typo. Okay, so 4-8, 6-6. Any final words on Michigan State?
Meltuck, you better win 7 games, bro. Like you have to win 7 at this point.
Hey, bro. All I know is,
man, that contract looking like a grave mistake.
Yep. All I know is, hey, man, there's a lot of people who get paid to be bad at their job.
Man, I would love to get paid.
Why not us
to be mediocre? Or
why
bad?
Not us, bro? Mel, spend the millions on them cigars and post them cool pictures.
Shoot, hire me as a coordinator. I can be bad.
Live your life, bro.
And then so often we be good for a year. Trust and believe. I know how to do it.
There's nothing better in the world than being a fired college football coach, bro.
Man.
You are on the right track. You are doing what you need to do.
It's crazy because as soon as you get fired after getting all this money, some other dumbass school is gonna hire you and give you a stupid ass contract.
It won't be this stupid, but it'll be.
You never know.
I think they're gonna stop giving out 10-year contracts, bro.
I hope so. Golly, I hope so. Because 10 years for any job, unless it's like a pitcher, like that's it. That's the only sports job I could see giving 10-year contract to a pitcher.
It's hilarious,
and that's really just a closer.
Yeah, it's hilarious that like almost every 8, 9, 10, 11, 12-year contract that they give out in baseball is like trash after like 3-4 years, and they keep doing it.
They keep doing it because they have so much money. They could just give these players all this shit. Because if you look at it, it's like a 10-year contract, $300 million. Oh, $30 million a year.
Yeah. All right. Minnesota, man. I was rooting for you.
Yeah, this is gonna be
this one hurts.
Be a growing pains year for you.
This one hurts. It's gonna be a bad year.
It's gonna. I think with Minnesota as a team, it should be a bad year record wise. But if you watch the games, it should. I'm hoping they're a lot more competitive. And like there's something you can see, like there's a potential you can see in each of these games. Like I don't want to see Minnesota getting blown out in every game that they lose, but but they lose these games and they're like in it, and you're like, okay, you lost a lot. Of course, you're losing these games because you lost all that lot. But if you can turn this around in another year or two, you're right back up there. And I'm talking to you like you're Penn State again.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I don't want Minnesota fans to hear this and hear me say it's going to be a bad year and think that I don't like them. I think they're going to be fine ultimately, right?
Yeah, down the
I
road.
think that this is a bad year because they've
Mhm.
lost. I mean, they lost Chris. Well, Chris Bell is back, but he's coming off an energy
Injury. We got it. We
injury.
understand. Yeah.
Uh,
It's cool. We went to Kent. We can't
yeah,
read and
can't
stuff. Like,
read, can't write, can't
yeah.
talk. Yeah. So, coming off an injury, you
Yep.
lost Tanner Morgan, you lost
Yep.
Mo Ibrahim, you lost John Michael Smits, your center, and you lost your offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
You couldn't have lost nothing else. Like
Yeah.
what else could you have
You
lost?
lost a lot of your offense. You lost a lot on one half of the ball or one side of the ball. That's not good.
And
It's
then
scary. You still got a good defense,
yeah, I mean the defensive
which
coordinator is still there.
yeah.
Tyler
I mean,
Nugent, I think, is an All Big Ten, maybe even All American caliber safety. There
mhm.
are things to like. I just think, you know, this is the thing that
I
happens to everyone that's not like Ohio State and Alabama.
mhm.
You peak and then you drop, and then you peak and then you drop, right?
Yeah.
Michigan, they peaked, they dropped. Now they're peaking again. Penn
Yep.
State, they had their couple bad years. Now they're peaking again, right? LSU won and then they went down and now they're up again.
Yep.
Florida State won. They went really down. Now they're
Yep.
coming up again. Clemson was just at the top. Now they're going down. Ohio State is like the only recession-proof program in the world, and I'm not saying that as an Ohio State fan. It's literally true throughout their
Yeah,
history. They
yeah.
don't have as many national championships as the other team, but they don't have any. Like they almost have zero losing seasons. It's crazy.
Yeah, it doesn't drop. It's not a
So you
complete
peaked.
drop. Yeah.
You're dropping. I think maybe even as early as next year you could come back up. Because you have some young guys, but this
Yeah.
is just you.
And you
Last
know
year and the year before was the year, and you didn't
yeah.
do it. And
And it's
that
crazy
is
to me because I think even then we've seen bad offensive teams win 9, 10 games. Iowa is one of the worst offensive teams I've ever seen, and they still found a way to win 9, 10 games based on defense. So Minnesota, there's potential here where you could still be really good just based off of defense if you keep that up, and your
yeah.
offense is just better than Iowa's.
So the other problem, because I believe in providing all the
Mhm.
context. Part of Minnesota's issue, they had to play Ohio State and Michigan
Oh, that's 2 L's.
on top of the other games. So it's like if this was like Ohio State and Rutgers, you give them another win, and then it starts to creep. But when you add 2 L's immediately, then you add the non-conference, and you add Illinois and things like that, it gets ugly kind of quick.
Yeah,
And then you add in, which people try to get mad at me for, but it's literally happened every single year. Then you add the one game they lose a year that they shouldn't, and it's like now you have a losing record.
yeah.
Um, I'm not down on them. I'm not down on Coach Fleck. I really like them. It's really unfortunate. We were rooting for them hard the last 2 years.
Really hard.
That's when they should have won it, man. Like
Yeah.
they needed to win it
The
then, and
injuries,
they
and
let
it is sad because the
Purdue
injuries
do it.
didn't really. They had the team. Injuries really played a huge part in why they couldn't finish the deal.
So I think injuries played a larger part 2 years ago.
Yeah,
They had Mo Ibrahim the whole year, man. I
they
still
had
think
injuries on there, but they had an injury.
it
The
was Chris
quarterback got
Otman.
yeah, and then the quarterback get hurt. Tanner got hurt too for like a game
Uh,
or two.
I don't remember. I think so. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think so.
yeah.
It just
I don't think he played in the Illinois game
that
or
sounds right.
or
They
the
both
game.
had backup quarterbacks in that
Yes,
game.
it was like it was something like that.
I
Something
think
like that.
Illinois and Minnesota both had backup quarterbacks in that game or
Yeah,
something crazy.
yeah,
It's just unfortunate, man. Like they let Purdue do it. Like
yeah,
that was their year, man. So um I think it's going to be a bad year. I don't think they're going to be bad forever. Don't get me wrong, Minnesota
yeah. I
fans.
think they
But I
can
think
turn
if
it
you're being
around just as quickly as next year. If we're
yeah.
being honest, I hope it's just as quick. I hope it don't drop as far as you have them. I don't hope it gets as bad as you got them.
Yeah, I mean, maybe, but
Yeah,
we'll see. I think so. Again, part of the reason why I have them where they're at is just their schedule. It's not entirely so much
it's
even
a
the
difficult one.
belief of the program. It's just
Yeah,
their schedule is very hard.
yeah,
Um, so again, you lose Tanner Morgan, you lose Chris Ottman, you lose Tanner Morgan, you lose Mo Ibrahim, you lose
John.
the you
And
lose John the center, and you lose your offensive coordinator. Chris
losing your
Ottman
offensive
Bell.
coordinator, it
That's
does
tough.
suck. That
Yeah.
sucks.
Chris Ottman-Bell is back for a seventh year, which is crazy because he keeps
Sheesh.
getting injured. And that's
Yeah.
the other thing. Knock on wood. I hope that's audible enough that everyone can hear it.
Yep.
Chris Ottman-Bell's been back for a seventh year. It's because he keeps getting injured.
Yeah.
So there's no guarantee that he doesn't get injured this year. You know, not wishing it, but you could effectively
It's in the
lose.
cards. If
Yeah,
I wouldn't be mad at anyone if there was a it'd be sick, but if there was a way to make bets on injuries,
yeah. Let's see, and they're losing. They lost three of their offensive line starters as well, which is not great.
that's
And
not
a
good at
year where
all.
all five of their offensive linemen got all Big Ten honors.
Yeah,
Um,
that's
they
not good at all.
positives again. They do have a couple of their offensive line back. They have Chris Ottman-Bell. They have Brevin Spanford, who's a pretty good tight end. I think he has a good chance of being the best tight end in the conference if they have adequate quarterback play. But there's no guarantee that they have adequate quarterback play.
Right.
I'm not even going to try to say his name, so I'm going to get it wrong. The Athan K is what I'm going to call him. AK.
Okay.
His nickname is the Greek Rifle.
That's so dope. That's a
Yeah,
dope.
that's a fire ass
That's a
nickname.
fire name, bro.
That's a fire, bruh. His initials are AK, and his nickname
Man,
is the Greek Rifle. That's fire.
right. That is dope.
Also, I can
I,
pronounce the Greek Rifle. I cannot pronounce his
yeah,
last name, bro.
because like him,
Whew.
not because now Andre Karolinko, his name in the NBA back in the day, AK-47.
Yeah,
That was dope. So now
yeah,
there's another AK. The Greek rifle is nuts.
that's fire, bro.
That's fire. Like,
Um, so he completed 54% of his passes. That is not great, but he did lead the win against Nebraska, the comeback win. That was a great game, and he threw for 319 yards against Wisconsin. Um, he supposedly, got better in the bowl practices as you would like to see.
mm.
Um, and listen, I didn't love Dante Morgan, so it's not like he can't.
I
It's
didn't
not
hate
like
him.
yeah,
I could, he could have been better.
yeah.
He had his moments. I'll give you that. He was just very inconsistent. It wasn't a consistent thing all the time.
Right. Um, I don't know. I don't know. If the quarterback is good, they could be better than I think. Their schedule's still impossible though.
It's a tough
It's
schedule.
god
It
awful
is,
hard.
but
But again,
they could still win enough games to get a bowl berth.
yeah, yeah, they could probably not be as bad as I have it. Again, I
Yeah.
told you, Brevin Span Ford is back. He had 42 catches last year. Their number one wide receiver. I mean, he didn't have amazing stats, but the number one wide receiver is back because Chris Ottman-Bell was injured. Chris Ottman-Bell is back. If he stays healthy, that's nice. They
Yeah.
did get a couple of transfers. So this is interesting.
Their quarterback's a transfer, right? Or a freshman?
No, he's been there. He's like a sophomore, junior. He's been
Oh,
sitting behind him.
okay.
They brought in all MAC running back Sean Taylor from Western Michigan. He posted consecutive 1,000-yard seasons there. He's not as big, so he's not like they're going to have to do running back by committee, but
Yeah.
they do potentially have a good running back. Potentially,
Okay.
it's not
The
Malik
offensive line,
Reed.
but the offensive line losing all five of their starters is a little
Yeah,
nerve wracking for that
yeah.
position.
So, but man, their defense is going to be fun. Joe Rossi is fun, man. I really like him.
I'm saying they could win 7 games. They could
I'm
sneak in seven
yeah.
wins here.
I'm gonna read. I'm gonna read their defense of stats. I'm reading all of them. I don't typically read all of them. I just have to.
Mm-hmm.
They were fourth in scoring defense, third in points per play, ninth in total defense, 21 in yards per play, sixth in third down conversion, 16 in rush defense, 39 in yards per carry. They're 124th in negative plays. It's because they don't have a great defensive line, so they weren't getting a lot of sacks and tackles for losses. 31 in explosive rush percentage, though. So, like, you could get past the line of scrimmage, but you weren't
Yeah.
going very deep. 15th in pass defense, 11th in yards per attempt, 7th in quarterback rating, 39th in completion rating, and 26th in explosive pass. Aside from negative plays, because they don't have a good defensive line, They were top 40 in every area, but they probably average, if you put it all together, they probably average like 12th in just about everything.
That's not bad.
They were a really good defense.
That's a
They were a
really good
really
defense.
good defense, man. They're very, very fun to watch. They did lose some players. They lost 5 of the 9 all league stars. A
Okay.
couple people transferred, but it's just kind of like I
That
don't
can be
know.
that can be
They have their starting linebacker, but the thing is, they have a potential star at a couple key positions. They have a really good linebacker in Cody Lindenberg. They have a great safety in
yeah.
Tyler Newman. Huge fan of him. And then they also have where's that guy's name? They have corner Justin Wally, who's also pretty good.
He's good. Yeah, he was good.
Um,
They have
so
a potential to still be above average if
yeah,
done correctly.
and here's the thing. This is if I lose this bet, I'm very confident in saying it might be on Minnesota. I might be too low on them because I kind of forgot how good their defense was.
Yeah.
Although they are losing people, but a lot of it was really just like not having faith in the offense. But like, what if the quarterback is better?
And
I don't know.
yeah, and he only has to just be a little bit better, and the team can win 7, 8 games and shock everybody. And 8 games could be enough to win the West because it's still divisions until next season, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Damn. I already
You're
said
thinking about that. You're thinking about that one too, huh?
yeah.
Yeah, me too.
But
Yeah, me too.
I already no, wait. We do them next week. We do them on Friday. I can change that. So for those of you who don't know, we can change this up until we say the schedule. But once we say the schedule, it's locked in. But I haven't said Purdue yet, so I'm changing it. I'm changing one of my games. I'm
Mm.
changing one of my games because we haven't talked about Purdue yet. It's not significant, but I'm gonna flip this. I'm gonna flip
I
this.
want to change that and make it. I'm gonna keep it. I'm gonna keep it. I'm gonna keep
Okay.
it.
All right. So okay. All right. Do you have anything else to say on Minnesota? Or you want to go through the schedule?
We could go through the schedule.
All right. Let me pull up this schedule. Man, but I'm a big fan of Minnesota. I know people be thinking I'd be hating, but you don't listen to the show if you think I'd be hating on them.
Yeah, we're big fans of Minnesota. We
I
wanted
just
them to win the West for the past 2 seasons.
literally predicted it. I think I had them winning like 11 games last year.
Yes, yeah. Like,
It's like something crazy, and they
I
just
think you had 10. I had 11.
okay. That might have been
Yeah,
right. That might have been
yeah,
right. Man, this could even still this could have been an 8-win team if they didn't.
yeah. That's what I'm
If
saying.
the
This a
schedule
eight.
if the
This a,
schedule God didn't mess them up, man. I don't know.
and
Just
even
having a
then, still, I think because two of these teams, because I think Illinois could lose the game just because, and I think Purdue could lose the game just because. That's 8 wins right there.
It's possible. I think Illinois. I see. So here's the thing with Illinois. I think this is their third year with the coach, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think they've dealt with being on top and being super hyped last year, and then that falling apart. I know they've lost some people. I think they're
Yes.
going to be stronger mentally in this thing that where you talk about you have to learn how to win. I think this year you're going to have to beat Minnesota. In Illinois. I think last year they beat themselves sometimes.
Yes.
I don't think they're going to beat themselves this year. If they can find if their quarterback is okay, better than he was last year, and they have a good, not great, right? I mean, they have a great running game. It's over. But if they have a good running game,
Bruh, this
especially
league's
with their
over.
defense and their defensive line, I don't think they're going to beat themselves like they did last year. I don't think
That's
they
fair.
lose that Indiana game, which they still shouldn't have lost. That was
They
a catch.
shouldn't. Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
don't think they lose. I just don't. So that's my issue with saying they could lose to Illinois. They could beat
Okay.
Illinois. I
Well,
don't think
okay.
Illinois beats themselves.
Okay. Take it. Then it's the other I team. I think Minnesota could beat Iowa.
With their defense, definitely possible.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you only have to score like 2 touchdowns with their defense.
That's it. That's
Against
it.
Iowa.
That is
So
it.
it's definitely possible.
That could easily be a 14-10 win. Let's go home. Like,
Yeah, definitely. For
yeah.
sure. Okay, let's go down the schedule.
Mhm.
Nebraska. We both have as a win.
Yep.
Eastern Michigan win.
Yep.
Hold on.
This is where we differ.
Okay. I was just making sure the count was right. Okay.
Yeah.
So I have them losing to North Carolina. You have them winning. North Carolina, and this does not always equate to wins,
Mm-hmm.
but I think North Carolina has the best pro prospect in the country at quarterback. I
Okay.
don't care what anyone says. Caleb Williams is not Patrick Mahomes. He is not a great pro prospect, even though he's going to get drafted highly.
Mm-hmm.
I think this kid is better. And I think, when it comes to like NFL career and that kind of stuff, he's going to be better. And I think this is his third year as a starter. He's learned a lot. I think he's going to be really good. I'm not predicting it, and this is not an ACC podcast, but I wouldn't be surprised if North Carolina wins the West. I'm sorry, wins the ACC. And even if they don't win, I wouldn't be surprised if they make the championship game against Florida State. So I just can't. I couldn't give them this one.
Okay. Um, I think Minnesota will have a to start the season. They're gonna still focus on try to run the ball, and I think clock management will be the reason why they can beat UNC and get the W here and just keep it going.
This is going to be a game to really test their defense.
Yeah.
If they can, if
If
they
they
can
can get
check out the
pressure,
quarterback,
if they could stop one part of UNC's offense, I think they could get the W right there.
yeah, so that's gonna be a good game. That's definitely gonna be a game that I'm gonna be watching. That has potential to be main TV game.
Yeah.
Potential. I gotta see the rest of the schedule. That has potential. So 2-1, 3-0. Northwestern loss. Win. Ugh,
Win.
God,
Yeah. Yeah.
I just said the word Northwestern and lost my mind. Northwestern win. Louisiana Raisin Cajuns. We both have as a win,
Yep.
and they play Michigan. We both has that as a loss. So the
Yep.
season starts well. You have them at 5-1. I have them at 6-2.
Yep.
That's that math doesn't add up. 4 and
4
2.
and 2.
They're probably ranked in 22, something like that. But that's when it gets a little tough for me. So they come off the bye. They have Iowa. We both have that as a loss, but again, that's a game we talked about could go either way.
Yeah.
Michigan State is a win.
Yeah.
Illinois we both have as a loss.
Yep.
I flipped mine. You did not.
I didn't. I decided not to flip it.
So it's locked in now.
Yep.
Purdue, I have a win. You have a loss.
I have a loss.
And then they finish. Go ahead.
The only reason why I think the same thing will happen again, where they'll just lose to Purdue, even though we definitely think they probably shouldn't. By this time, I think Minnesota will probably be a really good team. Like we'll be like, oh, okay, we can see it, but then they'll lose. They'll end up losing to Purdue for reasons we can't explain. Yeah. That's why I have that. But again, I see why you flipped it because I almost did too. I was this close.
Yeah. I mean, I just flipped it because Purdue has a first-time head coach, and so this is just.
Oh my god! That'd probably be the reason why they lose the game. Then,
yeah, it's just I think they're going to be very similar. Yeah, I think they're going to be a very similar type team. I think it's going to be a good game. Yeah. I just flipped it because I wanted them to go to a bowl game, basically.
Yeah.
Okay, so then they end out with Ohio State, Wisconsin. We both have losses, different games, but we both have them at 6-6. I think that's good.
Yeah, I think they could probably beat Wisconsin too. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean probably
depending on the momentum or how well they're doing, especially how good they play in that Ohio State game.
I just think the thing with Wisconsin for me is Wisconsin wasn't a bad team last year.
No, I mean neither was Minnesota though.
I know, but Wisconsin. The reason why I'm saying about Wisconsin is people forget that Wisconsin wasn't a bad team because their coach got fired and things like that, and they forget the talent that was on their roster. And it's not that they were a bad team; it was just bad coaching and bad circumstance.
Fair.
I think that they could be really good this year because they have a good roster, and you give them good coaching, and it's an immediate flip. That's my thing with Wisconsin. I think Wisconsin is more similar to Wisconsin of old, where they, run through most of this conference.
That's fair. Okay.
Okay, 6-6.
6-6. You still sharing your screen?
Yeah, I just realized that. Luckily, there was nothing important on that document except our notes.
Right.
So yeah, 6-6. I think that's good because like it's still a step back, but good teams don't fall off.
Yeah,
they step back and reload. If they're at a point, and this is going to be a great thing for them, and I think that they're there. If they're at their point where their bad year is still a bowl game, That's a good place to be.
That's a really good place to be, especially if you win that bowl game. Depending on the,
Yeah.
yeah,
So, like, Minnesota fans may get mad at us, this, that, and the third. They may want to get back to the 11 wins and all that kind of stuff. And I'm not saying that that's impossible, although it gets harder with the added conference.
yeah,
But if they get back to the point where a bad season is 6-6 and it's not 2-10, I'd be happy with that. Like, that's good for them, in my opinion,
yeah.
I think.
It's a step back, but it's just a stumble, not a fool.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
All right, so let's wrap up. Let's get out of here. You don't have a pit stop,
I do
so
not.
I'll go through mine.
Yeah.
I used to, for new listeners, it's the I-80 football show, right? We do this as if we're road tripping through the Big Ten. When you're road tripping, you do a long drive, you have to take a pit stop, you have to stop, use the bathroom, get food, stretch your legs. This is what we're doing. We're stretching our legs, and we're talking typically about something that is not Big Ten related, and a lot of times it's not even college football related. My pit stop is U.S. Women's National Team. It just sucked. They lost. And
I
penalty
saw
kicks on
that.
a crazy penalty kick like barely went over. I still think they shouldn't have gave it to them, but I saw this thing that was like, I wish that sports were no longer like officiated so precisely,
Mm,
because I guess if you look at VAR, it was over, but
yeah.
the effort that goalie made, I think that she deserved for that not to go in. And by the eye, it didn't look like it went in.
Mm.
And sometimes you lose that human aspect of sports. Some people want that, some don't. It is what it is. Here's the thing: no one has ever won 3 in a row. If you really think about it, they should not have been projected to win. And I'm not making excuses. I'm just dead ass. They
Yeah,
should not have
no,
been projected to win.
they're young as
And
hell, right?
yep, I have it pulled up. I'm going to show you why. I think that I would have liked for them to do better. I think the reason they didn't do better is their coach is awful. Like
Yeah.
they could have, they shouldn't have been projected to, but they could have won this year. But definitely at least went further if their coach wasn't so bad, and he's very bad. So
He's very bad.
I
It's
mean, like,
hilarious.
we had a terrible showing at the
Oh,
Olympics, and they kept him. He's awful. He needs to be fired. I can't believe he's not fired yet. I would have made him buy his own flight back
is that
from.
Alex Morgan? As in like Alex Morgan?
Yeah, she's still on the team.
Good lord, how?
She's 34. Yeah,
Yeah, oh, Jesus,
yeah.
it's
So,
time.
well, I mean, this is yeah. So, this is, I wanted to pull this up, one, because I didn't want to get it wrong. Ultimately, it sucks. It's not fun. They lost. They didn't do as well as they wanted to, but they were in between generations, and this is what happens.
Megan's
And
still on the team too. I thought she retired.
who?
Megan Rapinoe.
No, this is her last year. So she
Oh, okay.
announced
This
she
is her last
announced
year.
her retirement for the end, like
Ah,
she's doing like the farewell tour. She
okay,
announced her
okay,
retirement for the end of the NWSL season, which it ends in
okay,
the fall.
okay.
So she
I
was
could have
doing her little retirement
sworn she
tour.
did her whole thing already, but okay,
Yeah, yeah. So okay, so they're in between generations is what I was trying to say. There
Mhm.
were, I think, in their first game, of the 11 people in the field, like 6 or 7 of them, it was their first ever World Cup game. That's tough.
That is tough.
But you know what that does? That builds experience for next year, and
Yeah.
4 years, I'm sorry, when you add 4 years and they're in the prime of their career. So fire the coach immediately. He
Oh
shouldn't
yeah.
have been allowed on the team playing. 2 years to prepare for the Olympics, 4 years with these players in their prime, and hopefully the U.S. Academy gets some other good young players. And I think we're back at it. Also, Germany was who was in between. They didn't even make it out the group stage.
Mm.
Brazil, who was in between generations, didn't make it out the group stage.
Really?
Yeah, they didn't make it out the group
Holy
stage.
smokes. Okay.
There's a lot, like, there's a lot of the, kind of like favorites who just didn't even make it out the group stage. So at least we got out, right?
Right, right.
Um, it sucks, but you can't win everything. There's a reason that no one has won 3 in a row. You don't want to lose in round 16, but whatever. But I wanted to show the ages, and I wanted to go through some of the players, because these are the players with a better coach who are going to be the stars for us in 4 years. And that's not even
Okay,
talking
I
about the
know I
players who
knew
grow up.
Julia
And
Ertz.
then Alyssa Thompson,
And I
freaking
knew Crystal
18 years
Dunn. Okay.
old.
Yeah.
18 years old. She's not even going to be in her athletic prime for the next one. She's going to be a dog. Trinity Rodman, 21. She's going to be 25. Dog. Sophia Smith is going to be 26. She might be the best player in the world by then. Not the country, the world by then. She's very good. Naomi Girma, dog. She's going to be 27. Alyssa Sanchez, I don't know much about her, but she's young, 28. Emily Fox, 29. Savannah DeMillo, 29. Alana Cook, 30. These are almost Rose Lavelle, who's really good, is going to be 32. Alex Morgan's 34. Megan Rapinoe's 38. I bet you Rose is still
Megan Rapinoe is 38. Oh, yeah. Good Lord.
I bet you Rose is still on this team. I don't know about Lindsey Horan or Lynn Williams. Hopefully they give it, or Crystal Dunn. I hope
Crystal
that they give
Dunn
it one
will probably
more.
Still be there.
I hope they give it one more, kind of like some of the older team did. But the point of what I'm trying to show is all the young team, their future stars, not even close to their prime. They have one or two. This is Alyssa Thompson's first year as a professional, and she was so good she made the team. You give her 4 seasons as a professional, you give her the Olympics, some other competitions, some other friendlies, things like that, and then
she's gonna be nasty.
I can't remember the names just because I'm not great with names. There are 2 other really good players who didn't make this team because they got injured. Like, I don't remember her name, but she was like the Trinity Rodman last 4 years ago when she was like 18 and 19 and had a great showing, and then she got a really tough injury and she wasn't able to make the team. If she's healthy and comes back, man, I hate that I can't think of her name right now. She's really, really good.
I wouldn't even know, but I'm bad with names regardless of what the sport it is.
Mallory Swanson.
Yeah. I remember her. Yeah. She nasty.
Yes. So if she's healthy and she's on the team, I just think, again, you want them to go further, but I mean, it's sometimes it is what it is, right? They already have the 26 World Cup, which is the men's. They're trying to get the 27 World Cup, which is the women's, and they're trying to get the 2028 Olympics. So if that happens, the United States is going to go crazy in 26, 27, 28. I will go broke to go to I'm going to go to a men's World Cup game because it's, that's a lifetime event. If we get the women's World Cup, dog,
I'm going to that.
I'm gonna be there.
I'm gonna go to that.
I'm gonna be 32. I better be in a position where I could drop $2,000 on some tickets, bro. And we would know in like a year or two, so we'll have time to save up. Yeah. Can't wait.
Yeah, I've spent $2,000 on worse.
Yeah, like college. All right. So as always, thank you all for road tripping with us down I-70. We appreciate it. We will see you again on Friday, where we will finish the rest of the middling tier, and hopefully there's no new news because this is like a 2-hour show, and we didn't even get to talk about the Big 12 aspect of the Pac-12 dying because there was so much going on. But. Have a good work week.
We gonna hear about Stanford and all them leaving in like 3 days. Watch.
Yeah. We'll see y'all on Friday.